Hello and good afternoon. It is Monday, the 20th of March. We're 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through March already. And welcome to my Monday Magic. And this week, we're continuing the theme of women leaders and embracing equity with International Women's Day earlier in the month. And it's also World Leaders Week this week. So it's all about leadership today. And I'm continuing with the theme, thinking about some of the headwinds that women face in the workplace. And the one that I've been thinking about and reflecting on today is all around how women tend to end up taking the grunt work. Now, this is when I talk about grunt work, the idea is that grunt work is invaluable. We need it to be there. And many of the things that come into that category of more menial work is really important to the lifeblood of an organization. But the thing about it is it often goes unrecognized. And also what tends to happen is that sex roles or gender roles from outside or historically that have taken place in society get carried through into the workplace. So often there is an expectation that women will take on more menial tasks than men do. And often what happens is, as women, we say yes to those menial tasks because how we're brought up is to take care of others, is to look after, and therefore we're used to suddenly being conforming into those more menial roles. And what I'm talking about is, some of the women that I come across in our workshops are, excuse me, looking at, they get into a meeting and they're immediately asked to take the minutes. Or even worse, and I'm still horrified to say this still exists in today's workplace, they get given, go and clear up the coffee cups, or even go and make the coffee for the meeting, or organize those things to make sure that they do happen in the meeting. Those tend to be tasks that often get given to women, along with, and this is really important work that women are doing, being responsible more for the welfare of people within the organization, taking the lead on initiatives to do with equality, inclusion and diversity and well-being, all really important things that contribute to the lifeblood of an organization and make sure that people are engaged at work and performing at their best, but largely go unrecognized. And I was reading an article recently that referred to a book called The No Club, which is by a lady called Laura Westerlund, who has looked and done a lot of research into the difference in the type of work that men tend to get involved with and that women get labelled as being that's the work for the woman. And it's not as conscious of that. We're talking about unconscious bias here. So it's not like people are intentionally going, oh, tea time, get the women to make it or whatever. It's happening on a much less conscious level than that. But what she notes is that women are completing 200 more hours than men of more menial maintenance type tasks, so like the office housework type tasks. And men, particularly in junior roles, are taking, over a period of a year, are working 250 more hours than women. In high value tasks, those high value tasks that will get them seen as visible and that will help them get promoted. And that is making a huge difference on women as they step in and their opportunities that come their way to step into more senior roles. At senior levels, men and women take on more or less equal tasks in terms of high value tasks, but women additionally take on these other roles, these other responsibilities around welfare, well-being, equity and inclusion. They are taking those on without any recognition whatsoever. So the challenge is that this is a massive unconscious bias that is going on within the workplace. And what is tricky about it is, as women, we quickly say yes to things because we're almost hardwired to do that. So my invitation as you go into this week is to try and counteract that bias that is kind of seeping in to all areas of the workplace, is to really think about what you're saying yes to. And if it's something that isn't going to help you get ahead, if it's something that isn't going to support your career and your progression, think twice about whether you say yes to it. Or alternatively, think about how can you get those roles, those responsibilities that are so important. I mean, so equity, inclusion, well-being, so important to the success of an organization these days, particularly post-pandemic. There's something about how can you lobby to make sure those activities are recognized as just as important as hitting sales targets, engaging with clients, etc., etc. And also there's something about, I would never ask you to not be authentic as a woman in the workplace. I think it's really important that everyone is authentic, because that brings the real melee of diversity and the richness that people's strengths can bring when we're brought together, that whole balance of things. But I would say, think about, when men say yes to something, they are thinking more strategically around how will this connect me to important stakeholders who I need to be visible to, and also how will saying yes to this progress my career. So by, maybe using that as a model that you could follow, be more strategic when you say yes or no to something. And if it's something that really anyone could do, it doesn't have to be a woman that does it. It could be a man that could equally do it. A man can just as equally clear the coffee cups up after a meeting or take the minutes in a meeting. Then say no to it. So that's my magic for this week, is think about where you can say no, because whenever you say yes, you are saying no to something else. And don't let that no that you're saying something else to be your career or be your reputation or your visibility. Thank you for listening to me this week. I hope that's been a value for you. I would remind you that we've got a special Leadership Live this Thursday coming up at 1 o'clock. There are still places available if you'd like to join me. And it's all about women and ego and how our egos can get in the way. And there are differences in gender when it comes to ego. So it's worth noting what those are, but also thinking about how can I manage myself and my ego to get over that and be the full, powerful woman that I want to be. So join us on Thursday at 1 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you then. Otherwise, I will see you next week for our final installment, thinking about women in the workplace and the challenges they face. Go well and have a good week.